everyone, so welcome to today's video. I am so glad you're here. Today we get to talk about my favorite products, my favorite best in beauty products for 2023 in the complexion category. I cannot wait to share with you some of my most favorite products that I've discovered this year. Truly standout products that have changed my routine, changed my makeup game, that really are just, they completely blow me away every time I use them. So I cannot wait to share with you, so let's get started. So let's kick this off with primers. I'm going to talk about two primers. The first one is the So Blown Primer from Caliray. This is a primer that helps control oil, that helps minimize the look of pores, and it truly does make a difference when I use this primer versus not using it with a specific foundation that I'm going to share with you in this video. I've used this primer under the foundations that I'm featuring in the Best in Beauty, so it works great across the board, but one foundation is just a magic combo with this primer. I like how this sort of blurs my skin and helps control oil. I do get oily sometimes, like on my nose a little bit throughout the day, and then right here where I have larger pores, which is something that you will find with oilier skin types. I would say my skin type is more combination, a little bit oily over the nose and larger pore areas, and then kind of dry through the parameters of my face. So that combination of skin types kind of makes it a little tricky sometimes, because I don't want to use something that's more mattifying on the dry parts. This is actually a primer, even though it does control oil, that I can use all over my face, and it doesn't make my perimeter look dry. It doesn't accentuate flakes, dryness, or any texture. It just kind of glides and goes on the skin so seamlessly and smooth. I love it. Next up is the Pore Diffusing Primer from Rare Beauty. I have a small size. This was one of my favorites from last year. This sort of kind of crept its way back into my routine this year. And I wanted to revisit this primer this year because I was using this when I was pregnant last year with my son. And I remember loving it so much. But now that my skin is back to its baseline, I wanted to revisit and see how this is working for me. And it just works the same. So this is truly something that helps blur the skin, blur the pores, and just create a smooth, even canvas for my foundation. And I really do enjoy using it. And it's, again, another primer that I do see a difference when I use it versus when I don't. So I do believe that this is a great, great primer. Foundations. Let's just go ahead and get into this category. Let's start with my just absolute love that I just could not get enough of throughout this year. It's the Hourglass Ambient Soft Glow Foundation. I wear shade 2.5 Cool, which it's actually a more kind of golden yellow undertone. So the undertone and the color range is a little bit off than what we typically expect. So cool usually will kind of mean that it's more pink based, and that's what kind of resonates in my mind when I see the cool undertone as a description for a foundation or a complexion product. But this range of foundation from Hourglass, this cool, is actually more yellow, and I personally prefer that or a more neutral tone. But the formula, if you can find yourself a match on this, it is a beautiful kind of filtered effect in a bottle. One pump and it's just magic on the skin. It completely smooths and blurs the skin, and I keep saying a filter in a bottle because truly that's what it is. It makes your skin look more perfected and more flawless looking. One pump is the sweet spot with this. I personally don't think that more is more when it comes to this. With other things, I'm like more is more, but when it comes to this formula specifically, one pump is max, and I feel like that's sufficient to really get a full coverage look where it looks like my skin is just super perfected and beautiful. And even though it has really great coverage, it doesn't look heavy, and it doesn't feel heavy, and it doesn't look heavy. It just really does make my skin look its absolute best. So I have to mention it and talk about it. I'm wearing this mixed in with another foundation today because I wanted to use as much as I could today, but that is a solid foundation for me. Next up is the Estée Lauder Double Wear. I have been using this since the summertime, and I mixed it today with the Ambient foundation from Hourglass. This foundation is just absolutely incredible. Even though the claims say it's transfer resistant, it's oil free, it's long wearing, you probably think something like that is going to look heavy and feel heavy. It's the exact opposite, you guys. This looks like skin, but just a more full coverage look to your skin. It really is, it kind of blew me away, to be honest with you, because I have heard about this for decades. Like, I remember getting magazine subscriptions in the mail. Let's talk back 2008, 2009, getting magazines subscriptions at home, or buying them at the grocery store and reading them while I'm waiting to check out, and seeing this foundation featured in the beauty section articles of those magazines and thinking, man, that's gonna have to be a pretty heavy feeling foundation and looking foundation. That's got to be a special occasion type of foundation. No, 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 no. This is an everyday. This is beautiful. This is incredible. This is absolutely everything. I just love it. I can't say enough good things, and I couldn't believe that it took me that long, years and years, to finally come around to trying this. It's incredible. I just feel like I should have tried this sooner. Last foundation in this video is going to be my Smashbox Always On. This is a more recent addition to my collection, but let me tell you, this is absolutely beautiful on the skin. It is a foundation that sort of perfects the skin and helps with balancing out the skin, but also hydrating with the hyaluronic acid that's included in here. It gets dewier as the day progresses, but in a very beautiful way. It's not dewy where it gets oily and it's like slick mess where it starts to look too shiny, where it starts to kind of separate or kind of gather in certain areas or just look patchy. It wears and just kind of goes through the day with you very, very well. And that is why I keep reaching for it. And today I mixed it with my Hourglass because I just can't get enough of it. And I want to use this every single day. But in order for me to kind of make use of this every day, I kind of just mix. I make my own little concoctions, and I could not be happier. And when I use this foundation on its own, I just love it. And this foundation with this primer, it wears like iron for me. It just stays in place, and it doesn't budge, it doesn't move. And it just looks fresh and just radiant in a great way where it's not looking heavy or oily where I feel like just a nasty, greasy mess on my face. There's just something really special about this formula, you guys. It really is great. I've got a couple of concealers, 4 concealers, that really just blew me away. And I think I'm going to keep saying these formulas are going to blow me away every time I'm talking about a specific category of complexion because they truly are just incredible. So let's talk about Natasha Denona High Glam. It's like a magic formula in a tube. I don't understand what's in here or what came about with this formula, what she did to put it together, what sorcery is in this, because this is just perfection. I wear shade P1, and that's what I'm wearing today, and just this, I didn't mix it with anything else. I just can't, I have nothing negative to say about that formula. It looks incredible under the eyes. It's the perfect amount of coverage, the perfect amount of hydration. It sets well. It doesn't accentuate fine lines. It doesn't settle. It doesn't crease on me. It just is perfect. Absolute perfection. The next one is the Serum Concealer from Tower 28. This one actually really surprised me. It's a newer release to the concealer category of the makeup industry from Tower 28, but it is a really great formula. It does have a more serum-y type of texture, but I think what sort of surprised me by this is the fact that this Serum Concealer actually has great coverage. I've used serum concealers in the past where the coverage is just not there, and I have to keep layering it or mixing something else with more coverage to make it work. This I don't. I don't have to mix anything with this, and it's the perfect amount of coverage. And I like the fact that there's some skincare benefits added to this formula, so it kind of feels like a little extra special treat for my under eyes. My last 2 concealers, the Makeup by Mario. This one is one that I've reached for a lot ever since I bought it when it first came out. I wear shade 140 in this. I love the coverage that this provides, and I like how brightening this is, and I do mix this one because it is quite brightening. The 140 is a little lighter than maybe what would be a better match for me, but I do love the coverage. And what surprised me about this is not just the coverage, but it was the fact that I was able to retain the full coverage of this product with a sponge, which using a damp sponge tends to eat up a lot of product. It didn't happen with this concealer. Then I can get the same coverage as a sponge when I use my brush, and that to me is a big deal because sponges will kind of eat up and remove a lot of excess products. So it's a good tool to have in your collection to use for blending. However, when it comes to full coverage, I feel like it kind of dilutes that coverage a little bit, but that didn't happen with this. So it's gotta be up there for me. And then this one, the Dior Forever Skin Correct, was a very surprising concealer for me this year. I did a video earlier this year, a couple months ago, about my favorite concealers, and this was one of those that I had to sneak in at the very end because I was just blown away. This concealer, it is pricey. It's Dior. It's bougie. It's expensive. And you think, is it really that great for a sort of designer brand makeup item? And it really is. It truly is. It has coverage. It blends beautifully. It looks great under the eyes. It has hydration to it where it actually makes your under eye area look really great. It's not so hydrating and so oily and greasy and wet looking under the eyes that it's difficult to set, because I've tried that experience as well, and that's just not my journey, okay? I don't like concealers that I have to pack on like 10 pounds of powder just to keep it in place, only just to get creasing 30 minutes later. That's, no. The hydration on this is perfect. The coverage that it gives is perfect. The doe foot applicator is the right size to get the precise amount of product on, and it is a larger doe foot, I will say. It's kind of giving those Shape Tape kind of vibes, but it's the perfect amount. You take this wand out, one swipe here, one swipe there, maybe a dot on the outer corners if you have some discoloration, as I do, and that is it. And it works beautifully with my damp beauty sponge, and it also looks perfect with a brush. So it's a 10 out of 10. I have to include it because it's amazing. Setting powders, I have a few to show you. The Huda Beauty setting powder, this is the Easy Bake. I have a travel size. I use Shade Pound Cake. I've talked about this before in plenty of videos, and you've seen this also demonstrated in tutorials. This powder is the best powder for setting the under eyes. It gives you a touch of coverage, I think, because of the tone. It sort of smooths and perfects the under eye area, and it literally blurs, right? So it looks, again, going back to that sort of filter in a bottle type of description, but it's a powder, obviously, and it just kind of blurs and it sets. The only drawback I would say for this specific one, it's this cube packaging. This cube makes a huge mess. So that is kind of not the greatest thing, but the formula is fantastic, okay? And also another thing to note, in case you are sensitive to fragrance, there is a fragrance smell to this. So that's something to note. If you can get past the fragrance scent, this will be the best loose powder that you will ever use, hands down. Next up is my Pat McGrath. This is the Sublime Perfection Blurring Under Eye Powder. It is designed to be used as an under eye powder, but in the demo that I am showing you these products applied, I did take the excess of this that I had on my sponge, because I do take my beauty sponge and I kind of smudge it in there. I took the excess and I just went over my T-zone because I didn't want to waste it. Pat McGrath is expensive, okay? And this powder is just so great. It looks white, and it has a bit of a white kind of feel and look to it when you apply it, but once you blend it in, it doesn't look like a white powder, white cast. It literally does blur, and it's part of the name. It's blurring under eye, and I do feel like it helps sort of set the under eye area without looking heavy, and it's a very finely milled powder, and that is why I enjoy it. And I don't know if the camera's going to pick up how I've kind of flattened this compact, because when you first get it, it's going to have a domed kind of raised shape to it, just the way it's baked and done into these compacts. But it's sort of flat because I go into it like crazy and I use it all the time, and I love it. And the same thing goes for this next powder from Charlotte Tilbury. This is the Airbrush Brightening Flawless Setting Powder. And I did hit pan on this. Maybe you can kind of see a little bit there, hopefully. Maybe there you can see. I have hit pan on this because I use this to brighten my under eye area. And it's a last step kind of thing in my routine where I take a fluffy brush or my go-to brush, which is the Road Techniques one, and I just sort of blur and brighten after my makeup is complete. Everything is done. This is that final step, almost in the way of using a setting spray, but this does brighten the under eye area. It helps erase the lines of my blush if I get the blush too crazy and too close to my nose. It helps remove any fallout from eyeshadows, so it truly is one of those like erasers. That's why I like to call my little brightening eraser powder, because it truly does that. And I notice a difference when I don't use this. I truly do. So I have to include it because it's phenomenal. I love it. Moving into my bronzer category, I have a few powder bronzers. It's the Haus Labs and my Gucci bronzer. These two are just absolutely incredible. Let's start with the Haus Labs. It's the one that I chose to wear today. This is the Velvet Bronzer. I wear the shade Light Level 2, and it truly is the perfect bronzer for my fair skin, where it gives me some color and that bronze look to the skin without it being too heavy, without it being too orange or too just red looking or too dirty looking, too muddy. It's the right tone. I thought initially when I first bought this a couple months ago that it was going to be too light, but the more I've used it, the more I truly have loved the tone of this and the undertone. That's huge when it comes to bronzer. When you're fair like myself, that undertone is super important. I don't want a bronzer that looks too orange or too yellow, and I also don't want it to be too red, because then it doesn't look right. It has to be like a really good sort of neutrally bronze color. Now this next one from Gucci is a little bit deeper, and it's a little bit more intense in tone, but it is absolutely everything. It's the number 2 bronzer from Gucci, and everything that you have heard about this that's positive is absolutely true. Even though this is a very expensive bronzer, it is worth every single penny. It blends like a dream. It looks super beautiful. This was kind of intimidating when I first took it out of the box because I thought that I had gotten a shade that was too dark. But I do feel like if I would have gone a shade lighter, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it. And if I would have gone a shade darker, again, I probably wouldn't have enjoyed it. I think that this tone number 2 is just right for my fair skin. And it literally blends so seamlessly. I don't have to work hard to get this to show up or to blend. And it is, like I said, a more pricey product and brand. But this is truly one of those products, just like the Dior concealer, that has a very high price point that truly is worth the investment. And this is a special treat. Every time I use it, it makes me feel special. So if you want to treat yourself just because or for something special in your life, this is a great little splurge moment. Now for my cream bronzer, I don't use a lot of creams. Even though I have quite a few in my collection, I tend to gravitate towards powders just because I feel like it's quicker and easier to use. But if I'm going to use a cream, I have been loving my NARS Laguna bronzer. This is the original Laguna 2 bronzer, and I have used quite a bit of it. I have a tendency to work on one side of my cream products, and I take clean fingers and I get some of the product and then I work it on the back of my hand, or I will scoop it out into a makeup palette. I don't like putting my brush directly into these products, so I kind of work on one side and I kind of just stick to that one side, so you can kind of see that some of it looks like it hasn't been touched, and then I have like a dip in one side where I do pick up quite a bit of this product. And I don't reach for this every single day. I feel like when I feel in that mood to use a cream bronzer, this is the one that I use. So that's why I'm going to show it to you, because if I am going to do cream, it's going to be this sort of cream formula, because I do think it's nice. It's creamy. It's not too wet, slippery, and emollient where it looks too dewy and radiant on the skin, but it's not completely matte. There is like that just happy medium where it blends and it has that creaminess that you need for it to blend and not disrupt your foundation or your base complexion products, but it's not so dewy and hydrating that it's hard to work with or that you have to set. I can go with this and then move on to blush and not have to set this with a powder bronzer on top because it stays in place. And NARS generally makes fantastic products for complexion, and their bronzers are just a cult classic. My last bronzer that is actually a duo, so I didn't talk about it when I was mentioning the powder products. This one is from Give Beauty. This is the Heatin' Up, which is the duo in the Pick It Up duo cream and powder contour and bronzer. I love this so much that I purchased a deeper shade during their Black Friday sale. Their sort of creamy contour is a little bit more cool in this one versus the next shade up, which is much more warm and much more of a bronze kind of look. This one I actually can use as a contour because it has that coolness that you need to create that shadow for contouring. The formula is just a slightly bit dewy and more emollient, but if I use this cream and then go over it with the powder, it's fine and it's not a big deal. It doesn't get greasy or oily throughout the day. The formula blends so well. And it is not that expensive at Sephora for this line. In general, this brand is pretty affordable. But this bronzer, if they could just make this powder bronzer into single compacts, I would go out and buy them all because the formula is spectacular. It does have a scent, so if you're sensitive to smells, just know that there is a fragrance. I would say the baby powder description is pretty daggone spot on accurate of what this smells like. Yep, it's that typical baby powder scent, and it doesn't bother me. You don't smell it. When you apply it and blend it, it goes away. It's just mostly when you initially open your compact, you get the whiff of it, but it's not like it's going to be lingering, or as you're walking, you're getting whiffs of baby powder. That's not going to happen. It goes away, but just something to note, once you open this, you will get that smell. Next up is blush. Wowee, is this a hard category because I have a drawer full of blush. And for me, blush is one of those things that more is absolutely more. I don't care what anybody says, okay? The more blush I put on, the more I feel sassier, the more I feel confident and the boost. And it truly is one of those things that it's that product that you just can't be without. Honestly, the moment you put on some blush, it's like the life comes back to your face, right? Do you feel that way? Because that's how I feel. When I wear blush, it doesn't matter what tone or what color, what brand, or how expensive or how cheap. It's that look that it gives. And I can't be without it. So these blushes, I can't even talk. I'm getting so excited. I'm getting ahead of myself. These blushes are just, they're everything. Absolutely incredible formulas. Let's start with my brightest one that is more of a fun blush that kind of looks a little scary, honestly, when you look at it. If I can get the compact open. It's the Too Faced Cloud Crush Blurring Blush. Wow, is that a name for a blush? It's a mouthful. This is the Candy Clouds. It went viral earlier this year. This color looks a little intimidating. It's very bright and very bold looking. One of those colors that if I was walking past the Too Faced section, I would just walk right past it and not think twice, because this is something that I don't really gravitate towards. But when the whole kind of bright pink moment happened earlier this year and this went viral and it was sold out for the longest time, I thought maybe I should try it, because if it's selling out that quickly, there's got to be something to it. And holy moly, is this not the most gorgeous pink tone ever? It literally looks like your skin, it has a natural flush. There's something really magical about this. So when you see a color like this, just take a moment to just try it and see what you think and how it makes you feel. And when you look at yourself in the mirror, it's going to look so incredibly beautiful. I was so scared of this, and I don't even know why. It's kind of silly, right? But this color, it's a matte formula, but it has a sort of satiny feel when it goes onto the skin, and it does really look like it's blurring. I do have another shade in this line that's a little bit deeper of a rose color, and I like that a lot. But out of the two, I would say this is the one that I've used the most, and you can hardly see the Too Faced embossing on it because I've used this so much. It really is a very flattering shade. Very, very surprising. Next up is the blush that I'm wearing right now. It's my Armani Luminous Silk Blushes in number 51. It's the perfect rose color. The formula is absolutely perfection. I wouldn't change a thing. Absolutely not a thing about this. This looks like it's mimicking that natural rosiness that kind of comes out of my skin naturally. If I went outside in the frigid temperatures and came back in, I was outside in the snow and I came inside and it's nice, warm, and toasty, and you just have that subtle kind of pinky tinge to your face and to your nose. That's what this does. This is absolutely everything. It's everything, okay? The next one is my Gucci blush. This is the shade number 4 in Bright Coral. This is another one of those splurgy items that I heard a lot of good things about. The compact, let's just start with that. It's beautiful. It's golden, kind of like a nudish pink tone to it with gold stars. It feels luxurious. It looks luxurious. It goes on luxurious, okay? The color is just so beautiful. Even though we're in winter, I can still wear this coral shade and it doesn't look like I'm still stuck in summer. It is really pretty, and it just looks like skin. When it goes on, it just sort of melts into the skin, and that's what I enjoy a lot about this Armani formula. Even the Too Faced, even though this is much more bold and brighter than something like this color from Gucci, it's that blurring kind of natural, it goes on with ease, and it just looks like it's my skin. And it doesn't look like it's sitting, because these are all powders. It's just perfection. It really is. Absolutely love it. This next blush kind of snuck into my collection very recently. I bought this during the last Sephora savings event, and holy moly, did this blush blow me away. This is another one of those kind of high-end bougie brands that went viral, and everybody was loving it, and I had to try it. I don't normally go for loose blushes, but this is the Prisme Libre blush from Givenchy, and it is absolutely incredible. I only bought one. I was a good girl during that sale, and I only purchased one even though I wanted them all. This is the Taffeta's Rose. I like sort of pinky tone blushes. That's what I feel like I gravitate towards the most. This one has 4 compartments of loose pink blushes in various tones. Some that are a little bit more cool, some that have a little bit more of a lavender, some that a little tinge of coral. But when you swirl all these goodness colors together, it just creates the most beautiful color on the face. Like, I was blown away. The moment that I used this for the first time, I knew I was going to love it, and I knew I was going to reach for it and want to use it and crave using this product in my routine. And I've used this in a couple of tutorials recently, and I've worn it in several videos where I'm talking about product, because it just is that great, and it really is worth the investment. My next blush and my final blush is actually a liquid one. This is the Matte Beauty Blush one from Charlotte Tilbury, the Pillow Talk. I absolutely love this. Charlotte Tilbury does glow like no other. She is the queen of glow. So when she came out with a matte blush, I thought, that's an interesting formula for the brand. And 2, I absolutely need to have that because Charlotte Tilbury is one of my absolutely favorite brands. And I love everything that I have in my collection from this brand. And I've hardly ever if ever, had a negative experience. And this blush, even though it's matte, it looks like skin. That's the common theme with these blushes. They look like skin. There is something very blurring about this formula, and it goes on with ease. Whether I use my damp beauty sponge, whether I use a brush, it looks like perfection. The color is just right. It's that pretty pinky tone that is not a bright pink. It's a natural pink. And that's, I think, what people are drawn into with this whole Pillow Talk range. And yes, it's everywhere, and they sell millions, and every second they sell a Pillow Talk product, I'm sure. But there's just something really pretty about that tone, and she created something very, very special. And this formula is actually something to consider if you're looking for a liquid blush, or if you want a liquid blush that's more of a matte formula without looking dry or chalky or looking kind of weird or accentuating dryness or texture or just kind of sinking into the pores. This is where it's at. Up next is highlighter, and this is my last category in the complexion products. And this is also a hard category for me because highlight is one of those things that I don't skip. And I have different types of highlights, some that are very blinding, some that are very dewy, glowy, some that are a little bit more sparkly, and then some that are much more soft and just more ethereal looking. And I do feel like I have a good range of products in my collection that kind of give me a little bit of everything, right? But these specific ones are really fantastic. So I'm going to start with the one that I'm wearing today, and that is an OG classic. We're taking it old school with MAC. This is the Soft and Gentle. This has been a favorite of mine for months and months and months. I can't get enough of it. It's perfection. It goes onto the skin and actually looks like it's melted into the skin. That's what I have on today, and this is the only highlighter I'm wearing today. And it just is one of those that goes with any blush. It goes with any type of look. It doesn't matter if I'm doing my full face of makeup just to go upstairs and vacuum, or a full face of makeup because I'm leaving the house. It is one of those that I can do and wear any day, and it's always going to be perfection and absolutely a dream to wear and to apply. The next one that I feel like gives me that same look if I'm a little bit more careful, but definitely gives a lot of glow. I told you, Charlotte Tilbury is the queen of highlight, right? So the Hollywood Glow Glide Face Architect Highlighter. Okay, again with a mouthful of names for products, can we just say the Hollywood Glow Glide Highlighter in Champagne Glow? Okay, and that's a little bit more of a like shorter name for this, but this is actually a beautiful highlight. I love using this on the face to highlight the inner corner, brow bone. I've also used it to highlight my Cupid's bow. I've even used it as eyeshadow before. The formula is smooth and it's very, very dewy and very glowy. It adds a lot of radiance to the skin. So this is one that if I go a little bit more heavy-handed, it does look a little bit more intense. And that's for me a more intentional type of thing. When I want it to be more intense, when I'm in a mood, when I'm more sassy, then I will apply more. But then if I want it soft and light and ethereal, I would use a big kind of fluffy brush that looks kind of like a crease brush but a little bit larger in size, and just kind of lightly just graze the skin and just dust it over. And it really is one of those that I can go very light, I can go something in between, or I can go all the way with it. So it's one of the more versatile formulas that I have in my collection. And let me tell you, her powder formula is dynamite. Her contour and beauty wands, blush wands, they're all fantastic. And the glow is unlike anything else with this line. The next highlighter is one that's a little bit more soft. And again, it's a time and a place. Sometimes I'm not in the mood to wear something so blinding or so noticeable. And when I have those moments, I do reach for my Laura Geller highlighter. I love this brand. I feel like it's a very soft, ethereal, candlelit kind of glow. It's a formula that I think is very mature skin friendly. Her blushes, her powders, I love her lipsticks. I mean, I have a lot of favorites from this brand. And this highlighter, this is the original baked highlighter in French Vanilla. I do have a duo that has 2 different shades, and I like using that as well. But this one gives me a very similar effect. Like, think of an Hourglass formula. If you're familiar with Hourglass products, you know how it just sits on the skin more like a glow, like a candlelit, just like a soft whisper spotlight kind of thing. You like my descriptions of glow onto the skin? It's not blinding like this. It's not going to give you the Charlotte Tilbury look. This is very, very scaled back, but it is absolutely beautiful. If I wanted to, I could dust this all over my face and not be worried at all. I can go right over my larger pores and not be concerned, not even bat an eyelash, just whatever. Dust it all over my face and wear it. I can set my whole face with this and it's going to be fine. That's how soft and thin and light and just ethereal this looks. It looks like your skin is in its healthiest state, right? And who doesn't want that? And I love the tone. It's perfect. And that, my friends, is all of my favorite complexion products from the year of 2023. These products completely blew me away, knocked my socks off. I would 1000% recommend them and completely stand behind each of these products. If you try them, I hope that you will love them as much as I do. The description box is going to have everything listed and linked for you below in the order that I talked about them in the video, in case you want to just go to a specific section of that list for your next shopping trip to Sephora, or if you're doing some online shopping. Hopefully you take some of these recommendations with you in mind when you shop for makeup. If you have questions about these products, absolutely reach out to me. I love hearing from you guys, and I will do my absolute best to answer your comment, your questions. If you have a product recommendation that you want to kind of send my way, your favorite product from 2023, please, I'm all ears. I want to hear from you. I want to know what you're loving and using, because I want to try. I want to be in on it too. So share with me in the comments what you love. What was a standout? Subscribe for the next part of the Best in Beauty videos. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss out when I post a video. I post every Tuesday and every Friday, and I have enjoyed so much posting twice a week, and I just love this community that we have here, so I appreciate you so much. I thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here, for watching this video, for watching any of my videos. It means more than you'll ever know, so thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in my next video. Take care, you guys, and I'll talk to you very soon. Bye-bye.